What's up, y'all? Everyday Dustin is here, and I'm gonna go over some things that I see homeowners or like just inexperienced people like do when I go in and troubleshoot stuff, or some common things that I run into for homeowners. So one thing that I see often is one of my biggest service calls is, and it's like so simple. It's like when they, hey, my bathroom outlets aren't working, my garage outlets aren't working, my outside outlets aren't working. A very common thing. Gosh, I gotta stop saying so much. Very common thing I see a lot is they'll say, yeah, one of those aren't working, right? So first thing I do is obviously check GFIs. Some houses in the 80s, early 90s-ish, they ran the garage outlets, the outside outlets, and the bathroom outlets all in the same circuit. So what you need to do, sometimes and that's the thing too, is like there was no like general practice for it. It was like, yeah, well, we'll just put a GFI somewhere. Better make wherever I want, So it was like, so you got to find out where the GFI is and make sure it's not tripped. So, where have I found those GFIs? Well, a lot of the time it's the master bath. Sometimes it's the hall bath on the first floor. Sometimes it's in the garage. Sometimes it's in the basement. So, first thing you do is you go through bathrooms, check the bathrooms, make sure those GFIs are fixed. Then you go into the garage, make sure those GFIs are tripped, and then you go into the basement, make sure all the breakers are on. And sometimes breakers will have like a half trip, where it looks like they're on, but they're not. So like I usually kind of go in to the panel and I'll do like a little, just a little nudge, like a light touch on the breaker to make sure that it's not tripped, because you can touch the breaker a little bit and it should have it should be firm. Sometimes if it's half tripped, you touch it and it'll trip the rest of the way off. That's something I do to check to make sure that all the breakers are on. Check all your bathrooms, because you'd be shocked how many service calls I go to, even though we tell them over the phone, we're like, hey, go check all your GFIs and make sure that they're all on. And they're like, yep, I did it, and they didn't. And I go in there and I hit a button, and I have to charge a service call because I made it all the way up there just to push a GFI button, which really sucks for the homeowners. So that's a common one that I run into a lot on service calls. Another thing I see like DIYers or homeowners do is with outlets or even switches, is they don't give themselves enough wire in boxes. Let's say they run an outlet or a light or a switch. They literally will only give themselves like a couple inches of wire, Like you'll have a light box or an outlet, and there will literally be, like, so for instance, so let's just say I'm running a outlet, and I have a box. I don't have one down here. So you'll have your box, and you're gonna have your square box, and you have two knockouts on the top and the bottom, sometimes on the sides. When I put my wire in the box, I'm gonna measure my hand where it's out at least. I'm gonna have at least 5 to 8 inches in the box, you know, so that you have something to work with. Because if not, if I only have this much wire to work with, that's a pain in the butt in the future if you have to change an outlet or a switch or whatever, or you have to tie it in with another circuit or anything. It's a pain in the butt to have 2 inches of wire. So just give yourself a little bit of wire, fold it up nicely when you put your switch or outlet in. Yeah, it takes a little bit more pressure, a little more strength to push it in there, but I see it all the time. They just don't give yourself enough wire to work with, you know, and it's a pain in the butt. So, you know, with that being said, that's a common thing that I see, is they just don't give themselves enough wire to work with. Another thing that I see quite often with homeowners is they they'll overcube a box. So each box that you get has like a set amount of cubic inches. A lot of older homes, the cubic inches it's like there's not a whole lot of cubic inches in those metal boxes. Maybe enough for 2 wires. Each wire has its. Hold on a second. It is time. Oh, sorry guys. Alright, well, didn't mean to do that. I got them bound up. So anyways, each box has cubic inches. And the cubic inches determines how many wires you can have in the box. So it's, if you don't know, or if you can't see on, you know, the box itself, you can always Google, you know, what kind of box is. Usually nowadays, any new box will have cubic inches on it. So like, everyone wants to get like the smallest boxes, you know. Get the big box, like get the 24 cubic inch single gang box if you're going to add an outlet or something like that. Give yourself some space to work when you put that outlet in, so that you can put a little bit of extra wire in there. You can get your device, you know, the cubic inches also counts for like your devices and stuff. So when you put a device in, it counts as some cubic inches. The grounds count, the connectors count. So it's like you really, I mean, that's why you hire an electrician, right, in the first place, is so because they kind of know all those calculations. But it's not that hard. It's basic math. You can look it up. Hell, you could put it into Chat GPT, and they'll tell you exactly how many cubic inches you're allowed to use in whatever set box, you know. But the calculations are online, and that's something I see often, is boxes are like way over cubed, junction boxes and such, which can be dangerous if your connections aren't tight and the junction box is over cubed. It can cause a lot of problems. Like this wire is causing me. Oh my gosh! Get it off there! Another thing that I see homeowners do quite often is they won't use the same type of wire, right? So, and that can be dangerous. So, you know, there's a few types of wire, at least in Ohio or in America. There are, you know, 14-2, at least electrical wires, 14-2, 12-2, 14-3, 12-3, 10-2, 10-3, etc., etc., etc. They just go on up, you know, 6-wire, 8-wire, 2-aught, 1-aught, 4-aught. Anyways, most homeowners don't mess with those big gauge wires. So what I notice homeowners do is they'll have a 12-wire circuit, you know, which is a 20 amp circuit. They'll use 14-2 in there, and that's dangerous. You know, you're not supposed to do that. do that because you're like, it's like the analogy I always hear electricians use is like, it's like hooking up what are those called? Can't think. Hooking up a, oh my god, I can't even think. Anyway, it's like hooking up a hose to a, oh my lord, my brain is not working right now. Wow, I have just gone dumb. I cannot think of the damn word I'm thinking of. So basically, you put a 14-2 wire on a 12 amp circuit, there's too much power going through that wire, and it could cause it to melt, or a number of things that are dangerous, you know. So when you add wire to a circuit, so let's say you want to run an outlet, or you want to run a light, or whatever, you got to make sure that you use the right size wire. Now, the question is, how do you know what size wire it is? Well, that can be challenging if it's not labeled. So a little trick that you can do is you can get some wire strippers and go to the wire and put it on the different gauges of the wire strippers. I mean, you can get a really cheap pair of wire strippers on Amazon, and they have the gauges of wire on it. So it's like, if you can't strip it, let's say you put it on 12 and you can't strip it, that means it's too small or too big. So you go down to the next one and you can try it, and it'll tell you if it's too small or too big. And then once you get a perfect size that doesn't mar the copper when you strip it, then that's how you know that's what size is. Now, there's a problem with that, and that is some manufacturers, and even there's different kinds of wires. So sometimes you'll have aluminum wire, which is a different size, different kind of gauge than, but generally they're usually uniform. But sometimes you'll run into problems with a wire, and it's kind of hard to identify because the gauge is just a little bit weird, or it doesn't really fit your strippers very well. Usually wires are marked, especially like newer houses, like they'll have a mark on it, like it'll say 12-2, 14-2, 14-3 nowadays, and you can kind of see it in my ceiling here. See these wires, they're all color coded. So the yellow wires are your 12-2, the white wires are your 14-2, the orange wire is your 10-2, and it even changes color. You'll have pink, which is your 10-3. Your black wire there is your 6-3 or 8 wire. There's some orange wire here that is 10-2. Then you have all your 12-2, and it's labeled. So you'll see, let me see if I can find where it's labeled. Anyways, you just want to make sure you're not using the wrong wire. I see it often, and it can be dangerous if you do it wrong. So just pay attention to that. That's just one thing that I've seen homeowners do. So we got overcubing, we got using the wrong wire, we got, like, you know, making sure you check your GFIs, checking your breakers when stuff's off. But, you know, if you don't know, and if you're not confident, you know, always get an electrician, become, you know, a licensed electrician to come do it for you. That's always the best bet. What do you think? What else is there that I see often? Sometimes I'll see, like, you got to make sure if you do install a paddle fan in a house that you have a fan rated box. That's something I see kind of often is they'll have paddle fans hooked up on just like a normal light fixture box. Like paddle fans, they move and they wobble and they wiggle, and you want to make sure you have a box that's rated to hold that kind of weight and that kind of movement. That's something I see quite often. What else is there? What else is there? Honestly, in hindsight, I should have probably wrote some of this stuff out, but I, in fact, did not write anything out. You can probably tell. You can probably tell. Come on. This thing is just not that powerful. And then there's a lot of things that I think like homeowners are afraid to do that they can do. Like, I'm an electrician. I'm not trying to like kill my business or anything, but there's a lot of things that are pretty simple that a homeowner could definitely do with just a little bit of confidence. And, you know, might take two people. You literally could go to Home Depot or Lowe's, get yourself a plug checker or a hot stick. If you want to change a light fixture out or an outlet, it's really simple. Like, you just, like, when you take the outlet out, you know, make sure the power's off. That might take two people to make sure the power's killed. Take the power, turn the power off, check it with the hot stick, check it with the plug checker, and then you can take it out. And then before you take it apart, just take a couple pictures of it so you know how it's hooked up, you know. And then when you get your new switch or your new outlet, they always come with like diagrams to tell you like which one's for the hot, which one's for the neutral. You know, at least in Ohio and America, most of the time the hot's going to be the black or the red, the neutral's going to be the white, the brown's going to be the green or the copper. And it's pretty straightforward on changing a device out or a switch. And there's plenty of YouTube videos out there showing you how to change an outlet or change a switch. If you want me to show you one, just let me know. I can do it. I can show you how I do it hot. It's very easy to do it hot. Because as an electrician, I do a lot of stuff hot. Maybe that's not the safest thing to do. And I'm not telling you to do that. This is all educational. I would not suggest you do it hot. You'll get a very nice surprise if you touch something hot. But that being said, I feel like you can change a device if you just take your time, have a couple tools, like maybe, I don't know, $20 in tools, you know, wire strippers, plug checker, hot stick, and you can kind of check and make sure it's all hot or it's all dead, and then you can change it, you know. Well, a light fixture, you don't even have to turn the power off, you just have the switch off, and make sure when you when you take it down, take a picture of how it's wired. Take a picture of how it's wired, that way you don't, you know, when you do inevitably forget how it was wired, if it was kind of a difficult thing to do, even if it wasn't difficult, you can still forget. Because when you're putting that light together, you're going to forget what the box looked like, or what the switch looked like, or what the outlet looked like. Because there are a lot of different applications. There's like, there could be stuff in the light box that they used to do back in the day. Like they used to run 3 wires, and they would run a 14-3 from each switch to the box, and then feed to the box, and switch loops. They've done all kinds of weird stuff. So just make sure you take a picture when you're taking it apart, and you won't forget what you got to do to put it back together right. You know, so you will inevitably forget. But a lot of homeowners can change out some outlets and change out some devices. And honestly, I recommend it to guys, to homeowners. Like if your house, like we recommend like re-devicing every 10 years or so. Which maybe honestly, you probably want to do it sooner if you use the devices a lot, like a kitchen, bathrooms, garages, like, I mean, you know, maybe some bedrooms or basements or something, you don't really maybe need to change it that often, but I recommend, you know, re-devicing and putting new devices in, and you can do it yourself, you know. It's not hard, it's not rocket science to change out some devices, and save yourself a few bucks, and then guess what? You know how to change out some switches and outlets and lights for the future. You know. But I understand electricity is scary. A lot of people don't like messing with it. I understand. I do truly understand. That is off kilter. But yeah, so those are some things that I noticed about. Again, I jammed it up. This is what you get for. Oh, I got it off center. I'm still learning how to use this machine and like what to do and what not to do, and I keep messing up, using the wrong hole. I've just used the same hole like 5 times. Like, oh, I'm gonna use this other one like a dummy when it was working just fine in the hole before. Why reinvent the wheel? But yeah, that is some things that I see often. There's some more. I might make this like a series because like I know there's other things that I've seen. I just didn't really think this video through very much. But yeah, guys, this is Everyday Dustin. I'm a dad. I'm an electrician. I ride motorcycles. I've lived all over. I've done all kinds of things. If you have any questions or any desires or any requests, please let me know and I will try to answer them. And here's the thing, as an electrician, that I've learned is like I'm not afraid to say I don't know, but I can find the answer, and I will find the answer. I will find the solution. That's just something I've learned being an electrician for 10 years. There's always a solution. There's always we can figure it out. You can too. Like, subscribe, follow, request, comment, do your thing, people. Thanks. Have a good one.